Welcome to the Kindness Project, the podcast designed to share stories of kindness and share how kindness can make positive change in our world, one small act at a time.
This week on the Kindness Project, we talk about Father's Day, original songs, and we have part 2 of our interview with Melissa Nobrega from Caring Cooks of Jersey.
Good afternoon, morning, evening, whenever you're listening to this.
Good time of the day.
Insert time of the day here. It's currently 5:19 p.m. where we're recording the Kindness Project on Father's Day, and I'm joined by a girl who thinks an appropriate Father's Day gift is a Toblerone that somebody else bought. Charlotte Dames.
And I'm joined by a man who I don't have a lot to say about today.
On Father's Day, you haven't got a lot to say.
So it's Father's Day, so I'm gonna not insult you today with your intro.
Oh, thank you. Is that my present?
Yeah.
Is that the second present you didn't have to put your hand in your pocket and buy? Is that what's happening? I don't know what's going on. What actually are you going to get me? You got any ideas?
My eternal love and affection.
I thought that game was standard.
No.
Oh, I've got to earn that love and affection, have I? How do you know it can be eternal? I could potentially lose it, couldn't I? Are you saying today that you're never going to not love and affect me? You affect me now by your stinginess.
I will love
Stinginess?
I will love and hold affection for you until the day one of us dies, and even then I will hold love and affection for you from my grave or yours.
Okay, great. Do not dig me up though, please. Just let me sleep.
I'll hug your tombstone, just like.
Okay, weird. All right. And on that note, should we go straight on to the question of the podcast? And today's question of the podcast is a music-related one, because I was listening to Spotify, as we love to do, you and I, and on my Discovery playlist, and normally my Discovery playlist is really good, but this particular playlist had a not great version of a song that I love, and I thought, what songs should just never ever be covered? What songs where the original is so good, is so good, you've got to turn around and just leave it be. Now, my one is Prince, When Doves Cry. I've never heard a better version of When Doves Cry than Prince. What's yours?
I've never heard a better version of Fast Car.
True.
They tried to modernise it, and I don't like it.
No, the dance version of Fast Car is sacrilege, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's not good.
And they try we're going to keep the original, voice thing for it, and we're just going to change the background music a little bit. No,
it's perfect.
No, it's perfect.
Fast Car is perfect. Pared down with just Tracy Chapman and a guitar. Love it. Absolutely love it. So, fine listeners, we'd love to know what is the song where the original is far better than any cover you've ever heard? And
who is the song?
Who is the song? Who is the artist? Where is it set? How did you first listen to it? And what's your name? Because we need that, because we read it out on the podcast. All of that information, including the song, can be sent to
all of our addresses, including.
Oh, sorry, am I doing this bit?
No, I just wanted to throw you off.
Right. No, I'm doing it. MySpace.
Dad, remember we got banned from MySpace.
Oh, right, okay. You can write us a postcard. Are we doing postcards?
No.
All right, okay.
You got anything else?
Yeah, I've got my pager number, right? My page. Do you want to send us a page? You know what? I know I've probably told you this story on the podcast before, but I had a pager once.
Yeah.
Right. It was useless, right? I mean, this was just before mobile phones became really popular. The only person who used to page me was my mum to let me know my tea was ready. And then when she paged me, I had to go and find a payphone to phone her back to let her know, cheers, Mum, I'll be home in a minute.
Couldn't you just send one back?
No, I could. Literally, the only thing this page could do was accept
Wait,
messages.
Then how was your mum sending you messages?
She had to phone somebody. She had to phone a service that paged me the message. I don't know why I ever thought a page was a good idea. She used to have to phone this woman and say, "Can you page Chris?" Like it was something super important. Tell him his dinner's ready. I was like, what? So it was during a stage of my life where I was a young man and I probably thought I was probably more important than I was, Charlotte.
Hi and welcome to the 10 reasons I'm glad I live in an age of convenience.
Yeah, exactly. Pages. I mean, that was at that time for about a year state-of-the-art technology. But I didn't need one. I mean, like, sort of, it's not like I was a doctor and there was like an emergency. The only emergency that was going to happen is my dinner got a bit cold. And to be frank, that's not enough of a reason to have a pager, is it? Let's be honest. Anyway, where can people
Twitter
find us?
at Ola Kindness, and then if you go on over to Facebook, it's a quick trip, just type it in your search bar, should send you there immediately, hopefully.
Phone the woman who runs your pager service.
And tell her to put the Kindness Project in the search bar on Facebook, and we will come up right at the top, and if we don't, who do we complain to, Dad, that we need to...
I don't know, but we are very prominent on Facebook and Twitter and Google and all those sorts of places, so just search for the Kindness Project podcast.
Or if you want to, email us at
honour@thekindnessproject.co.uk. Let me get your glasses and just slow on your face. Hold on. Let me put them on. Christ! How short-sighted are you?
I don't know.
This is like Mr. McCool territory, this is. Yeah, put the glasses back on.
Yeah, I don't want to.
I don't want to put the glasses back on.
No, I need to put the glasses back on.
So our new way of contacting us is send an email to holla@thekindnessproject.co.uk. Apparently that's our new web address.
Kate.
Oh, ULK. Yeah.
No, I'm not okay.
You're not okay. You lost your glasses. Anyway, that please feel free to get in touch. And I think before we move on, we need to tackle the elephant in the room.
Which is
Hair. We need some hair chat. What colour is that again?
pink.
Pink. It's quite a bright shade of pink, isn't it?
Yeah.
What made you go for that shade?
The pastel didn't want to stick.
That's stuck. I tell you,
Yeah.
it is actually.
It is really funky.
It is funky. It's such a nice style. I would have gone all over, but I like you like the contrast.
I like the contrast because like it's my natural hair colour that's like dark brown, and then there's just
yeah. Bang! It's in your face. It's in your face. Love it.
There's no getting away from it.
Oh no!
No avoiding it.
Not for about 4 miles. I think I could probably see that from a million miles off. But yeah, very, very, very colourful. I love it. And on that note, should we get on with the show?
Let's do it.
So this week we've got the second part of the interview with Melissa Nobrega. I've probably absolutely butchered her surname, so apologies for that. I was having a chat with my mate Andy this week, and he's a previous podcast guest.
Yes.
And he told me this week that I've pronounced his names 12 times and still not got it right. Apparently it's Furno. I've been going Furno. So apologies if you're listening, Melissa. I did try my best with your surname. I'm just not good with names, am I?
Hi, welcome to 10 Reasons Why I Don't Attempt Surnames on this show.
Anyway, Melissa runs an amazing charity called Caring Cooks of Jersey. They do brilliant work helping people make sure that they're not suffering from food poverty and helping them out. So we loved hearing Melissa's story last week, and we're going to carry on hearing about it this week. Should we get on with the show?
Let's do it.
You know what's interesting? I think, particularly in the last couple of years, just the kindness people have shown to each other. You know, it's been a particularly tough time, but the way that communities have come together and people have helped, and certainly that sort of commitment to volunteering has been a really interesting thing to see, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. And, you know, companies weren't just giving us money, they were loaning us their staff to come. And some people gave up their lunch hour to come and do it, and they just did 2 or 3 houses. And literally so many people got involved in those 15 weeks. And they've now become long-term supporters because once you're actively involved in something, you see the output and the benefit of it. And it's all well and good funding that you've read about in the paper, but when you've experienced it, it does then create kind of donor stewardship. So they're long-term supporters of us now, which is incredible.
Yeah, it's the IKEA effect, isn't it? Once you've been responsible for helping build something, you're more likely to be committed to it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Talk to me, because I know the linchpin. I know you provide a range of services, but the linchpin one is that weekly meal service. Help me understand how that works practically.
So we have a chef on a Saturday that comes in, and normally he's got.
Sorry, Melissa. One thing before you go on to that, what's his omelette like? Because I reckon after omelette. I mean, I can only cook one thing, but it is a really, really good omelette. And just before we talk about the service, right, ideal omelette, 2 or 3 eggs.
Oh, 3, I think.
I'll be 3, hasn't it? I don't think there's any debate to that, to be honest.
A 2-egg omelette's tiny.
A 2 omelette, I mean, I won't go as far as 4. That's just right, but 3 eggs. 3. What would you put in your omelette? Like,
I don't put anything in it. I just do eggs.
Okay.
Butter.
Or spinach or...
On a low heat. To be fair, though, I've only just learnt how to do a good omelette, and I got a really good pan, and that's made all the difference.
It's the pan. You know what? When your pan starts to go, you've got to replace it straight away because your omelette quality just... Anyway, this isn't a podcast about omelettes. It could be. I mean, Russ, should we think about doing a podcast offshoot called Omelette Talk?
No, we won't be.
I'd get a range of people doing like the omelette challenge about how quickly they can do it.
Could be. They used to do that on one of the shows, didn't they?
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. That was an omelette related sort of direction of the conversation that we won't go down again. Help me understand. So chef comes in on a Saturday, then what happens?
So he's normally got 2 volunteers with him, but because of COVID, we've not been able to have that. So he cooks the meals and that he's obviously given a delivery matrix of where they need to go. And then we do have volunteer drivers that come in and deliver that. And some of these people have been with me for 7 years and they still do that. And the beauty of it is they can do it every week or once a year or once every 6 months. And it's how they want to be connected to the charity, really. Yeah. So that is a really important part of our structure, is that meal service. But what we were finding is that only meets some of the need in terms of the community. So we won a government contract in September to deliver school catering service to 5 secondary schools for the next 5 years. And part of the benefit of the government working with an MPO is that we can keep our costs down, because we need those vulnerable children to be able to access something that's affordable. We just had a lady in the community who's running a fundraiser for us at the minute. She's raising $5,000 so we can give meal vouchers to the schools to give to those vulnerable children to come and have a hot meal with us at lunchtime. So our 2030 objective and mission is that every school child in Jersey between 5 and 18 is touched by one of our programs. So that could be in the garden or learning how to cook or accessing a hot...
You are having a positive impact on every child. Yeah. How many kids are there in Jersey?
Sorry, say that again.
How many children are there in Jersey?
There's roughly about 6,500 primary and about 6,000 secondary.
So 12,000 families potentially, or 12,000 kids having a positive impact. That's an amazing aspiration. I really like that. Now, we touched on it before, but I just want to explore this in a bit more detail. I always, and again, it's interesting when Louise introduced this, but because I always assumed Jersey was a particularly affluent place to live. And I think every community's got challenges with helping people. But I was actually surprised that your service was needed and existed. Now, that's not unusual for me, but as I said earlier on, I think you live in a bubble sometimes, and until you're educated on what the need is. And it sounds like you went through that as well, through sort of learning through when your children were young. But talk to me a little bit about the challenge, and talk to me a little bit about how other charities and partners you work with are sort of stepping up to help with that challenge.
So I was having this same conversation on Wednesday with somebody. So in the UK, charities are kind of a value-added service. So they enhance what government are doing, although the hygiene bank is not enhancing. That is actually core work. Whereas in Jersey, the charity sector is actually a life essential sector. Like, we have services here that aren't delivered by government, and that could be through lack of legislation or lots of other reasons. And actually, if those charities go in Jersey, it will have a huge impact on the community, which is why I think we do have a big affluence here. And actually, it was proclaimed this week that we are the most expensive place to live in the world. But actually, a lot of those affluent people really help keep the charity sector vibrant. So we have what's called 11Ks here. So they are high net worths that move to Jersey and take advantage of for their businesses, etc.
The tax breaks.
A bit like Geneva or Luxembourg or whatever.
Yeah.
But they do give, and we have some of them, they do give a lot back to charity. And that is what creates that tri-partnership thing that I was explaining before. So that is a huge benefit for Jersey. But unfortunately, when you have the things like the Real Housewives of Jersey, I don't know if you've watched it or not, it does portray and kind of exacerbate that affluent lifestyle here. Whereas actually, on the other hand, there is people living in poverty here. I remember talking to a safeguarding leader at a school who told me a story about a little girl that wasn't coming into school, and she phoned mum, and mum said, "Oh, it's just because I've got no food to put in a packed lunch." So she went round to visit mum, and she walked up to the house, and there was 8 doorbells on this 3-story house. And it turns out, cut a long story short, there was 8 families living in this house, and they were in the basement with no daylight, no fresh air, and the toilet was on the middle floor. And the daughter couldn't get to the toilet in time in the night, and the mum was having to change the bedding every morning. And she just could not cope to get her daughter to school. And I mean, we have one of the highest rents in Europe in Jersey. So you can rent a 1-bedroom flat for £1,500 a month. And families are living in these 1-bedroom flats. So some are living in bedsits that don't even have a cooker or a hob. They've got a microwave and a kettle. Yeah. I mean, how are you meant to feed your kids with that?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work going on in government about housing legislation and rental caps. And unfortunately, we aren't progressing as quickly as most would hope with that, because landlords are charging exorbitant rents to people that earn minimum or living wage.
Is there a, and I'd imagine that, and again, I'm just trying to sort of square the circle in terms of how it works in the UK to how it potentially works differently in Jersey. Is there local authority housing or sort of council housing?
There is.
But not enough to meet the demand.
Not enough to meet the demand. And actually, the rents on those local authority housing types are not much different to the private sector.
Right.
And years ago, you need to be here for 10 years to be able to buy a house, because we've got a housing qualifications regime. So people are living in unqualified accommodation, which is really, really expensive. And landlords do take advantage of that. Yeah. But once you've got your qualies, there is not much difference between private and state housing. Yeah. And it's such a shame, but it all comes down to money and policy from government.
Yeah. And if you're spending £1,500 on a 1-bedroom flat, it doesn't leave potentially much in the budget for other stuff, right? That's the challenge.
We've got one mum who lives in a 1-bedroom flat with 2 kids above a restaurant, and her salary doesn't even cover her rent.
Yeah.
And her kids are beautiful and I love them to bits, but it's It's a really poor show.
And that, I mean, again, I'm having a lot of conversations like this because we've got a previous guest had a similar sort of service. There's a perception that and again, this is a perception that's not true. There's a perception that people have caused this by their own bad life decisions, or they're lazy, and in reality, there's a segment in all countries of working poor where their income doesn't cover what they need to spend to live. Right? That's the reality of it. I
think people don't think that is this here. We have a lot of people here that go, poverty in Jersey, like kids are going hungry, and I'm like, yeah, and they just refuse to accept.
Really?
Yeah. Whereas in the UK, it's widespread. It's in the media. Everyone knows about it. You know, UNICEF has just been feeding kids for the first time in 100 years, I think. I mean, it's promoted in the UK and it's visible. It's just not here.
Well, hopefully we can do what we can by sharing it with our audience, and we thank you for coming on and sharing the story. And by the way, I refuse to watch anything with the words Real Housewives in, right? so I'm really sorry. I don't get the reference at all. Real Housewives, anything that starts the only way. I literally, Cassie and my wife, I'm going to get in trouble now, Melissa, but my wife actually likes those shows. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan.
Do you know, to be honest, I think it's different here. So I loved it. I really loved watching it. But actually the people that featured in it are actually, many of them are the people that I was telling you about before that help a lot in the charity sector. It was just a bit kind of like, you know, I think it didn't show the island in a wider
you know what? Yeah, I think the other thing's interesting about it, and there's a perception of success that I don't think those shows particularly illustrate well. And they're probably nice people, and as you say, they're doing good stuff. But there's a superficiality to it that I'm less keen on. But
yeah. Absolutely.
That's just me. Just leave me just in the kitchen cooking my omelettes. I'm a happy man with a podcast. That's fine. Talk to me. Just tell me one story about how your work has an impact.
Okay. So, I mean, I alluded to it before, but when we were getting families through in lockdown last year, I was really shocked. Like there were families coming through that I expected that were really on their knees, like living wage. But I remember one lady who had a health business, and she's very well known in Jersey, very well respected. And she came to me and she was referred through the COVID helpline through government. And she just said, basically, my world has collapsed overnight. I've lost, because they're expensive services like physiotherapy and chiropractic. And she literally lost everything, and she got 2 kids. She did have a husband. I'm not quite sure, but I think she was the main breadwinner, the main income earner. And she just said, please help me. So she had a meal every day for I think pretty much for lockdown. And it massively helped. You know, she was at homeschooling, and so imagine in her shoes, she's lost everything overnight. Her mental health is at a low. She's got to homeschool her kids. To have a meal delivered that she's just stuck in the oven.
Yeah.
And we also delivered groceries, which were very kindly donated by Waitrose and M&S. It took that element of anxiety away from her so she could focus on other things like where her money was coming from or accessing the payroll.
And how to rebuild her business. And you know, I 100%. And it's that care when people need it the most, right? You know, just somebody saying, look, I'm going to help you here. And I suppose the challenge we've got, and again, I run a business, and I've been grateful that actually, you know, we've had a really good year in 2020. And you sort of feel for the people who have lost their business overnight because of the nature of it. You know, it is so difficult. So so supporting people in that period is really important. If people want to find out more about the work you do, I know you've got an amazing website that I've been taking a look at. Is that the best place for them to start?
Yeah, we've also got a really good Facebook page as well that we post a lot of stuff on, and a lot of our stories are on there, and a lot of the pictures from when we first started. I mean, you can go back to day one and see the tomato pasta that was cooked for our first meal.
Well, it's interesting, Melissa, because it's Russell's birthday today.
Happy birthday.
He's not going to answer, no.
Thank you.
And he helped me host a meeting that I ran, and there was 10, 12 people in it this morning, and I mentioned it was his birthday, and I got a call later on saying, why did you do that? So I'm now going to get in trouble again. But that's the weird thing about social media, because a video popped up on my timeline that was a video from 10 years ago.
Wow.
No, actually, it was 11 years ago. Now I've got a teenage daughter now. Charlotte's 17, and that was when she was 6. And it's weird how those sort of things. I mean, I teased her mercilessly because she was super cute, and she's less impressed by being super cute now. But I loved seeing it come back. Seeing those memories, and it must be an amazing way for that to see your journey throughout time.
Yeah. That's what hooks you onto social media, is those.
I know, you got to be careful.
Memories. Yeah, and every year, actually, my Facebook post that I did for that first meal comes up every year, and every year I feel a real pride about what I've achieved and the legacy that one day I will leave to Jersey. And without being self-promoting, a lot of this stuff wouldn't have happened without Caring Cooks. And that's not just me, that's the whole team that work.
Yeah.
This work would not have happened, and we would still be in the ages where we're not doing school meals. So I'm super proud of everything we've achieved.
You should be, certainly.
Thank you.
Do you think, last question, but do you think you get to a point in your life where because we're a similar age, I'm 43, but similar sort of age. Do you think you get to a point in your life, I mean, for me, it was probably 2 or 3 years ago, where you start looking at going, you know what, I've been lucky and I need to do what I can to support others?
Do you're right, totally right. And it's when I got made redundant from Lloyds Bank, and I came away with a nice redundancy package, and I had 3 months off, but then I worked for the charity for nothing for 5 years. And I still consider myself lucky now that of everything that I've got, and it's enhanced more by seeing what people haven't got.
Yeah.
I donate to charities, I give to charity shops. We're so privileged and we take so much for granted. And I think COVID's really allowed me to see how much more I can do, but how lucky I am.
Amazing. Thank you for joining us on The Kindness.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. As usual in these interviews, we've gone off on a few tangents, normally my fault, always my fault. Thank you for indulging me, and have a lovely day.
You too. Thanks ever so much, guys.
So Melissa, as we know, does amazing work. Let's crack on with what we need to do.
Tis the end
Bit loud.
of another podcast.
Okay, and
The end is never truly the end, because the end is only the beginning, and I'm stalling so that you can get up our answers at the end of the podcast.
Well, I know what.
Could you please do that before I run out of things to say?
I know what the question is. The question was favourite childhood memory, and there was a amazing amount of answers, both on Twitter and on Facebook. Would you like, I'll give you a choice, would you like to start with the Twitter ones or the Facebook ones?
Twitter, we never do Twitter. Let's do Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, you know what's weird? Sometimes we get a better response from Twitter and sometimes we don't. It's a bit of a mixed bag this week. It's 50-50. So
usually we get a better response from Facebook and we get 1 or 2 answers from Twitter.
Yeah, this is a bit of a broader mix.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jacqueline Locke said her favourite childhood memory of a holiday was chips in a cone on a beach in Cornwall.
I think it's a specific beach.
Bar Beach. Now, we'll have to look up where Bar Beach is, because we're off to Cornwall in a few weeks, aren't we? So hopefully we can visit Bar Beach and have Chips in a cone.
Love a good cone. Love a good bit of chips.
What's the best way to serve chips?
I don't know, in a bag?
No, thrown straight into your mouth. That is the best way to have them.
No, in a loaf.
Sorry, would you like to... Sorry, we are joined by our guest podcaster, a girl who... Have you been in the bath?
Yeah.
Oh, have you? Right, okay. Who's just got out of the bath? It's Sophie Dames. So what's the best way to have chips, Soph?
In a cone.
In a cone.
A cone with a flake.
Chips with a flake. Right, you have just inspired the next question of the podcast that I'm going to do. What are the most unusual food combinations
Well, no,
that actually
you
work?
might as well just put mashed potatoes on the cone and put a flake in it and call it.
Yeah, mashed potatoes with a flake.
Because if it was a real ice cream, it would all melt in all the heat from the lights.
Yeah.
That's what they do in ads. They put mashed potatoes.
But they don't actually eat it, do they? Yeah. So would you eat chips with a flake?
Maybe.
Chocolate chips. Oh, how about chips?
That's just chocolate fingers.
How about chips? Just
that's
with
flakes.
just with like sort of dark chocolate on top. Or chips with a chocolate dip. Would that work?
Oh.
Would that work?
It depends. Are we still putting salt and vinegar on it, or can we mix and match our toppings? Because if it's just salt, fine, we'll put it in chocolate. If it's salt and vinegar,
No.
I don't know how I feel.
You
about
don't.
it.
No. You don't have vinegar with chips. You don't have vinegar with chocolate. In America.
In America, there's this place, they make like, have you heard of it? Like the dessert hummus. Where you can get like strawberries and they've got like chocolate hummus and you can get strawberries and dip it.
Oh, sounds good. But that isn't the question of the podcast this week. The question of the podcast this week is, what is your favourite childhood memory that you had? And we've got some amazing answers. So chips in a cone on Par Beach in Cornwall was Jacqueline's. Pippa said Spain, age 3, terrified as my dad held me in a swimming pool for the first time, floating me around in a rubber ring. That was my first memory, but not particularly my favourite, she said. Then we had a few more. Charlie Goodman said Disneyland when he was a kid. Tess Page said I was an odd child. I was raised on Campari and espresso. Italians don't agree with food and drink design for children. It's weird, isn't it? Because the Italians and the French do serve wine to their kids. You know, they have like
It's like normalise it, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's true. There isn't.
It's just fermented grape juice.
It is.
But
with
it does have
with a bit
adverse
of alcohol,
effects on the brain.
An alcoholic kid.
And then Steve Chilton said learning to serve in Cornwall when he was about 10 years old. Nick Champion said rocking out to Billy Ocean in the back of my uncle's Cavalier driving through France, stopping to buy live shrimp from somebody selling them off a wallpaper table. It was the best shrimp ever. I was 10. Hayley Ball said her best memory was a pizza restaurant in Malta. Roberta White said, feel sorry for me now. I never had a holiday away. Spent 6 weeks school holidays on the beach in Arbroath, and the weather was always great. See, I didn't go abroad till I was 17, so that was my first abroad holiday, but I had plenty of UK stuff. Mark Rudder said crabbing, fishing, frog catching at Canvey Island, and that used to be a caravan site. And Carol Hussey said I loved going to the Isle of Wight. We had a week, one particular week, we had a week of perfect weather and did so many things when I was 10. And on that note, friends, that is the end of another podcast. Hope you have an amazing week, and we'll see you next time on the Kindness Project.
Bye!
Bye-bye.
Bye.